The mortgage payment suspension storm caused by the unfinished buildings in China's real estate industry continues to expand. Up to now, in addition to more than 300 real estate owners who have issued a mortgage payment suspension statement, hundreds of suppliers of Evergrande Group have also joined the army of suspending loans. In the face of this expanding wave of loan suspension, the CCP government, whose stability is overriding everything else, will not sit idly by and let it continue to develop and cause a bigger financial crisis. In addition to cracking down on defending property owners, the authorities have also taken various measures to try to defuse the crisis. However, judging from the current situation faced by Evergrande Group, which is involved in the most unfinished building project, this storm caused by unfinished buildings seems to have no solution. Since June 30th, when the owners of Evergrande Group's Longting project in Jindezhen City, Jiangxi Province, issued the first notice of mortgage suspension, according to the Summary of Mortgage Payment Suspension Notices in various provinces and cities on GitHub, as of July 23rd, 113 cities in 25 provinces and 319 property projects in China have faced the risk of payment suspension by owners. Recently, this mortgage payment suspension storm has expanded to the real estate supply chain field. Mainland media Caixin reported that a notice of suspension of loans and works for Evergrande suppliers and small and micro businesses in Hubei province circulated on the internet, and the date signed was on July 15th. Hundreds of Evergrande suppliers, including builders, said that they were unable to pay for construction materials due to the developers' default payments, and they decided to stop repaying all loans and debts and inform the industry to refuse all credit and commercial bills, and the resulting supply chain crisis will trigger a chain reaction, so the consequences will ultimately be borne by Evergrande. Evergrande Group has been deep in debt since the debt crisis last year. Due to debt defaults, refinancing channels have basically been blocked. The cold real estate market has restricted sales returns. A large amount of debts due still need to be repaid. The self-rescue strategy of guaranteeing the handover, ensuring that the building is completed and handed over to the owner for resumption of production, is also difficult to maintain due to lack of funds. Debt restructuring has not progressed smoothly due to various reasons, which is known as the Evergrande-style dilemma. There are still many real estate companies facing this dilemma in mainland China, which is also why there are so many unfinished buildings. For Evergrande, in addition to solving the debt problem, ensuring the property handover is the top priority. In September last year, Evergrande issued an order to guarantee the delivery of units. After several months of hard work, Evergrande completed nearly 38,000 units in December. At the 2022 New Year's mobilization meeting, Evergrande CEO Xu Jiayin also set a goal for 2022 to successfully deliver 600,000 units. But what is the actual situation of Evergrande? The suppliers who announced the suspension of loans this time also jointly accused that although Evergrande shouted the slogan of guaranteeing the unit completion, it was actually achieved based on pressuring suppliers and defaulting on payments. A number of small suppliers pointed out that Evergrande has not repaid the commercial acceptance bills it owed before, and has not proposed a solution since the shortage of funds in 2021. These suppliers built houses, supplied materials, and paid migrant workers wages for Evergrande, in exchange for things that Evergrande cannot honor. The suppliers complained that they have been struggling for Evergrande for more than a year, and even had to sell their cars and houses and take out loans to repay their debts. Now they are at the end of the road and have to face daily bank calls and creditor persecution. There are many suppliers of small and medium-sized businesses who have gone bankrupt or are on the verge of bankruptcy, and hope that officials will protect their rights and interests. According to the statistics of Chinese media, Evergrande owes suppliers as much as 500 billion RMB, and about 200 billion RMB as unpaid commercial bills. China Newsweek reported that after the Evergrande crisis, all project funds in various cities were included in the government supervision account, and priority was used to guarantee the delivery of buildings. At present, the local government has set up a task force to adopt the strategy of settling new accounts and hanging old ones. In other words, ignoring the old accounts already owed and making every effort to settle the new accounts arising from the guaranteed delivery of buildings. That is to say, even if a supplier has obtained a judgment, the court cannot compel payment of funds from the supervised account to the supplier. The pressure of payment that real estate companies need to face is not only the suppliers, but also the high tide of debt repayment. According to statistics from the Shell Research Institute, in July alone, the scale of domestic and overseas maturing debts faced by real estate companies was as high as 113 billion RMB. All real estate companies have prioritized ensuring that they do not breach their contracts, with repayments to suppliers coming far behind. The guaranteed handover resumption of work and production still requires the participation of builders and suppliers. Most of the partners chosen by Evergrande when guaranteeing the handover are the original suppliers. However, because the old accounts cannot be settled, the suppliers had little interest in participating in the guaranteed handover process, or were unable to make advance payments. With low motivation, there was no substantial progress in resuming work and production. Only by resuming work and production and resuming sales and operation can Evergrande deliver the buildings to the owners with quality and quantity, resolve the payment of commercial bills of upstream and downstream partners, and gradually repay their debts. So all this has become an insoluble deadlock. According to Evergrande's official data in early April, as of March 27th, Evergrande had resumed work on 734 projects, with a resumption rate of 95%. The supplier complained about this, saying that Evergrande only had 5 or 6 workers to work on the guaranteed handover project. If this is considered to be a resumption of work and production, when will the project be completed? A Henan supplier of Evergrande said that more than 80% of the projects involved were abnormal resumption of work and production, and there were only a few workers actually working on the construction site. A builder who was owed nearly 16 million RMB by Evergrande was unable to account for the project volume and reconcile the accounts because only half of the preliminary works have been done. So he had no choice but to participate in Evergrande's guaranteed delivery building project. But he frankly admitted that after the Evergrande crisis, participating in the guarantee handover as the actual contractor was more of a formality. He said, "It is necessary to settle the project payment often, otherwise the construction will be suspended again after a period of time, because the trust is lost between both parties. Moreover, the guarantee handover involves not only the construction team, but also the material suppliers and other parties. If the materials are not available, there cannot be construction, and consequently the development is very slow. For example, the general contractor of a project often faces thousands of legal lawsuits due to arrears, which leads to the low efficiency of guaranteed delivery. In addition, the adequacy of funds in the guaranteed handover supervision account is also a major constraint. The balance in the supervision accounts of some projects is relatively sufficient, and the speed of progress is fast. However, some regulatory accounts obviously do not have enough funds to support the guaranteed delivery, so the government needs to coordinate the liquidation of existing assets, such as the sale and mortgage of parking spaces, housing, etc., as the guaranteed delivery. So this is a slow progress. This involves another problem, that is, the majority of units that have been sold are not fully completed, so the liquidation of assets is not much. This means there is lower enthusiasm from companies and suppliers, so the project moves forward slowly. These units may be the ones whose owners suspended payments for. And some other private housing companies with unfinished buildings, although their financial situation is not as serious as Evergrande, they are also in crisis. So it is not optimistic that several of the 319 unfinished real estate projects facing the risks of owner suspension of payments will eventually be able to resume construction. A report of China Evergrande Bank's exchanges recently circulated on the internet. There are about 6 million to 8 million units involved in guaranteed delivery in China. Evergrande alone has 1.4 million units, and the total funding gap is between 2 trillion to 3 trillion. If the loan suspension turmoil continues to spread, it is likely to trigger a financial crisis, which will then evolve into a political crisis. In order to quell the loan suspension crisis, the China Banking and Insurance Regulatory Commission said on July 14th that it puts great importance to the problem of unfinished buildings and will guide financial institutions to participate in risk management and ensure that the construction projects can be handed over. On the 17th, officials urged banks to continue to spend money to undertake social responsibility and provide loans to eligible housing companies to support the completion of projects. Another source said that the central government is considering providing a buffer period to the owners of unfinished buildings who have suspended loans. In addition, the Chinese Communist Party's online censors have gone into overdrive. The censors have filtered or deleted social media messages and videos of demonstrations related to home buyers' rights, and keyword searches have been blanked out, with some comments banned. The reason why there are so many unfinished buildings in China is not only related to the illegal lending by banks and the lax supervision of pre-sale funds. The housing pre-sale system is also a result of the high leverage development of real estate developers, which leads to the broken capital chain. According to industry sources, the practice of pre-construction sale in China is picked up from the real estate industry in Hong Kong. However, the practice in mainland China has not completely copied the Hong Kong method and deliberately omitted the most critical part of consumer protection. The Hong Kong Estate Agents Authority's guidelines for pre-construction sale include 10 specifications, including the price of uncompleted properties, the amount of deposits, public information, and the safekeeping of buyers' ID cards, to place certain restrictions on developers and protect the rights and interests of buyers. Most of the payments for pre-construction sale properties in Hong Kong are made during the construction period, with 5% of the property price paid in each phase in different stages, and a total of 15% before closing, and then the remaining balance is paid on the handover date. When Hong Kong property owners buy pre-sale properties, the first step is to put the down payment to the bank account opened by the law firm, which then pays the deposit to the developer according to the progress of the project. The Hong Kong government has also adopted a tight monitoring system for property developers, so there are very few uncompleted projects. In mainland China, the down payment for property owners is paid directly to the special account opened by the real estate developer in the bank, which is supervised and used by the bank, lacking the third-party supervision of lawyers and impartial supervision. After the real estate developer gets the pre-sale license, the homeowner has to start the mortgage loan process. It is equivalent to the real estate developer getting the entire purchase price before the house is even built. If the property is unfinished, all the losses will be borne by the home buyers. As the regulators, the government departments protect and defend not the interest of the home buyers, but the interest of the banks, which are affiliated with the communist government, and the real estate developers, with which they have a symbiotic relationship. Therefore, under such unique conditions of authoritarian rule and corruption in China, so many unfinished buildings are produced, and the helpless home buyers can only protest and resist this by sacrificing their credit and choosing to suspend their mortgage payments.